Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are not just exploring a business theory. We are, I think, performing something of an exorcism.
An exorcism. Okay, that's a pretty dramatic way to start.
I feel like it's the only word for it, because we are tackling a feeling, a ghost really, that I know is haunting pretty much every single person listening to this right now.
Okay, I think I know the one you mean. It's that specific kind of exhaustion you feel deep behind your eyes.
Yes, it's not the good kind of tired, not
Right.
the I just ran a 10K feeling.
No, not at all. It's that hollowed out feeling.
It's the Monday versus Friday paradox. I'm sure you know this. You sit down on Monday morning, you've got your coffee, you feel, I don't know, hopeful,
Right. You open your notebook or your to-do list app.
and you write down the 3, maybe 4 absolutely mission critical things you were going to crush this week, the strategic stuff.
Yeah.
The deep work.
The things that actually move the needle, the big rocks as they call them.
Exactly. And then you blink. And somehow it is 4:45 p.m. on Friday.
And you feel like you've been through a war.
You're completely drained. You've sent like 600 emails. You've been in 20-something hours of Zoom calls. You've put out 5 different emergencies that came out of nowhere. And then you look down at that list you made on Monday.
And you haven't crossed off a single thing.
Not one. It is just, it's soul-crushing. There's a quote from an executive in the book we're covering today that just, it hit me so hard.
What's the quote?
He says, I know my organization is in trouble when I start Monday morning by making a list of all the important things I need to do this week. I work my ass off all week, but on Friday afternoon, I can't cross off a single item.
Ugh. That's painful because it's so universal. And what's our first instinct when that happens?
Blame ourselves. I'm not disciplined enough. I need to get up earlier.
I need a better productivity system.
Yeah.
We think it's a personal failure, a character flaw.
We go out and buy a new planner
Right.
or download another app.
Right. But today, we're diving into a book that basically screams, stop it. It's not you. The system is the problem.
And that book is There's Gotta Be a Better Way by Nelson Repenning and Donald Kieffer.
And their entire argument is that this exhaustion, this constant chaos, isn't your fault. It's a structural design flaw in how almost all modern work is organized.
They give it a name, don't they? The firefighting trap.
They do. And it sounds kind of exciting, like you're a hero.
Right, like you should be wearing a cape to work.
But it's actually a nightmare. And firefighting here is a very specific thing. It's the addiction to the short-term fix.
Let's unpack that word, addiction, because that sounds really strong for just, office work.
But it's accurate, even on a chemical level. Think about what happens when a crisis hits. A fire pops up, a huge client is about to walk, or the main server goes down.
Your heart starts pounding, adrenaline kicks in.
Exactly. You dropped everything you were doing, that important strategic work, and you swoop in, you make the calls, you expedite the order, you pull the team together, you stay late, you order pizza, and you solve it.
And you get that buzz, I saved the day. Everyone thanks you.
It's a genuine dopamine hit. Your brain rewards you for being the hero. You feel incredibly productive because you were busy and you got an immediate, visible result.
But here's the trap, I'm guessing.
Here's the trap. Because you spent all day fighting that fire, you had zero time to investigate what caused it. You didn't fix the faulty wiring, you just put out the flames.
So, of course, the same fire starts again next week, or maybe the week after.
And you fight it again.
Yeah.
You get the dopamine hit again. And it becomes this self-reinforcing cycle. You are constantly sacrificing the organization's long-term health for the short-term high of being the hero.
Wow. So we're all just running around with buckets of water, feeling important, while the actual building is slowly crumbling around us because nobody is checking the foundations.
That's a perfect way to put it. And Repenning and Kieffer, they frame this not just as, bad management, but as this fundamental conflict between two types of design. Static design in a world that is profoundly dynamic.
Okay, this is the core metaphor of the whole book, and this is what really made it all click for me. They compare it to GPS systems.
Yes, and the analogy is just perfect for getting your head around it. I want you to think back to, the mid-2000s. The old school GPS.
Oh, I remember. The little gray brick you'd stick to your windshield?
With a suction cup that would always fail on a hot day and the whole thing would fall into your lap while you're driving.
And that robotic voice. Recalculating.
Oh.
Always recalculating.
Right. Now think about how that machine actually worked. You'd punch in a destination. The device had a map, right? It was stored on like a CD-ROM or a little hard drive inside.
A static map. A picture of the world at one point in time.
Exactly. It would look at that map, do some math on speed limits and distances, and say, okay, this is the fastest route. But the map is static.
Mm.
The world outside your car is dynamic. It's changing every single second.
So if there's a huge crash on the highway 10 minutes after you leave your house.
That old GPS has no idea. Its map says the road is clear. So it just confidently directs you straight into a 5-mile traffic jam, and you just sit there fuming.
Because the map didn't match reality.
Precisely. Now contrast that with Waze or Google Maps today. What does it do?
It's alive. The road turns red on the screen. It pops up and says, accident ahead, 20-minute delay. And before you can even get angry, it says, faster route found.
And it reroutes you through some side street you've never heard of and gets you there. It's a dynamic system. It's constantly getting real-time data from thousands of other drivers. It doesn't just have a plan. It has a mechanism to self-correct when the plan meets reality.
Okay, so bringing this back to our Monday morning burnout. The argument is that our companies are being run with the 2005 Garmin.
We are absolutely running on static work design.
Mm.
I mean, think about it. We have organizational charts that were drawn up last year. We have annual budgets set in stone months ago.
Yeah.
We have rigid step-by-step procedures for everything.
But the market, our customers, the technology, that stuff is the traffic. It's changing every minute.
And the gap between our static plan and the dynamic reality. That's where the chaos lives. That's where the firefighting comes from. We try to bridge that ever-widening gap with human heroism instead of with better system design.
That's such a powerful way to see it. We're knowingly driving into traffic jams because our map is out of date, and then we're yelling at ourselves for being late.
And for not driving faster. It's madness.
Now, before we get into the 5 principles of what they call dynamic work design, we have to talk about the authors themselves, because this isn't your typical business book.
No, it's a real odd couple pairing.
It's like a buddy cop movie for management theory.
It really is. In one corner, you've got Don Kieffer. He calls himself a factory rat.
I love that. He's proud of it.
Totally. He started on the factory floor at 17. He ran the machines. He knows the smells and sounds of real work being done. He eventually worked his way up to being a VP at Harley-Davidson. He's the ultimate pragmatist.
He's the how guy. If it doesn't work on the shop floor, it's useless.
And in the other corner, you have Nelson Repenning. He's the MIT professor, the Ivory Tower academic. He studies system dynamics and builds these complex models to understand why organizations break. He's the why guy.
And they came together over a real crisis, right, at Harley-Davidson?
They did. This was in the late 90s. Harley was betting the entire company on a new engine, the Twin Cam 88. It was their first major engine redesign in forever. The stakes could not have been higher.
And the project was in trouble.
It was a total mess. The internal nickname for their product development process was LDO.
LDW. What's that stand for?
Late, expensive, and wrong.
Ouch. That is not a glowing review.
It's about as bad as it gets. The engineering department was just drowning in firefighting. So management does something radical. They take Don Kieffer, the factory guy, the manufacturing guru, and they put him in charge of this massive design project.
That's unheard of. Those two worlds, design and manufacturing, they're usually at war with each other.
It was a huge culture shock. But Don brought this factory floor discipline to the messy, abstract world of design. And Nelson Repenning was there, studying what was happening. And that collision of the practical how and the theoretical why is where all these ideas were born.
Their mission was to build an organization that works less like a static map and more like Waze.
Exactly.
Okay, let's get into the details. They anchor the whole book with a case study, that is. It's so stressful to read, it honestly gave me anxiety. And it's not a factory, it's the Broad Institute.
Right, pronounced Broad. It's this world-class genomic center, part of MIT and Harvard. We're talking about the absolute peak of science, curing cancer, mapping the human genome. The work is incredibly important.
So high stakes, high pressure.
Absolutely. And around 2012, they were basically being crushed by their own success. The technology for sequencing genes got way cheaper, so demand just went through the roof.
Everyone wanted their samples sequenced, and the lab couldn't handle it.
It ground to a complete halt. The average turnaround time for a sample got up to 120 days.
120. That's 4 months. Imagine you're a researcher. You think you're on the verge of a breakthrough for Alzheimer's, and you have to wait a third of a year to get your data back.
The researchers were, as you can imagine, furious. They were calling and screaming at the lab managers every day. So the managers did what any of us would do in that situation.
They started firefighting.
They started firefighting. They created a hot list.
Ah, the classic hot list. These samples are for the VIPs. Do these first.
It seems like the logical thing to do, right? You're
Ugh.
helping the most important people. But think about it. It's like creating a special breakdown lane on the highway for your friends. It works great for them.
But then everyone else sees it and says, hey, I want to be in that lane too.
Precisely. The researchers were smart. They figured out that the only way to get your work done was to get on the hot list. So they all started lobbying and escalating, and pretty soon the hot list was so long it wasn't special anymore.
If everything's a priority, then nothing is a priority.
Exactly. So what do you think they did next?
They created a super hot list.
A double hot list, but yes. And this is my favorite part, because it's so perfectly dysfunctional, they created the FOE list,
FOE.
like an enemy.
Friends of Eric. Eric Lander is the famous director of the Institute. If you're a personal friend of his, you got to skip the line completely.
That's not a management system, that's a monarchy. It's about who you know, not the importance of the work.
It's the total breakdown of process. And here's the vicious part of the cycle. Every time a manager goes onto the lab floor, interrupts a scientist, pulls a specific sample out of the queue, and hand carries it to the next machine.
They are delaying every other sample in that batch.
Every single one. Which means that tomorrow there will be even more angry researchers calling, which means there will be more need for expediting. It's a spiral that feeds on itself.
It's a death spiral.
It is. The team was working nights, weekends. They were completely burning out. And the manager, Sheila Dodge, said something that's just so telling. She said, I thought. That's what leaders do. They get done. She thought her job was the chaos, that being a hero was the definition of being a leader.
She confused the feeling of being busy with the act of being effective. She was overseeing a system that was destroying itself and her team.
But, and this is the amazing part, they fixed it. They used the principles we're about to discuss, and the results were just insane.
Not just a little better, they cut the turnaround time from 120 days down to about 20. That's an 80% reduction.
Wow.
They quadrupled the lab's capacity without a massive increase in staff. And maybe most importantly, the team started going home at 5 p.m. They got their weekends back.
That sounds like you're describing magic.
It feels like magic, but they argue it's just good engineering, social engineering, and it comes down to 5 core principles.
Okay, let's break them down. Principle number 1, solve the right problem.
This one sounds so obvious, it's almost insulting, right? Of course I'm solving the right problem.
My problem is I have too many emails. My problem is my team is too slow.
Right. But the authors argue that our brains are just not wired to do this well. We're wired for what Daniel Kahneman calls fast thinking. We feel pain, we see a symptom, and we instinctively reach for the nearest solution we've used before.
We jump straight to the answer. We need new software. We need to reorganize the department.
We need more training. Those are all solutions.
Hmm.
But we haven't actually taken the time to properly define the problem. They have a great name for this, solutioneering.
Solutioneering, I like that. Falling in love with a solution before you even have a diagnosis.
And there's a fantastic, almost painful story about Don Kieffer learning this lesson at Harley-Davidson from a Toyota expert named Mr. Oba.
Right, the sensei.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don is the plant manager, he's the big boss, and he's really proud of his factory. He brings in Mr. Oba, this legendary figure from Toyota, and he's basically expecting Mr. Oba to give him the secret sauce.
He wants the checklist. Do these 5 things and you'll be like Toyota.
And Mr. Oba walks in, looks around, and asks Don this one simple question. Mr. Kieffer, what problem are you trying to solve?
And Don, puffs out his chest and says, I want to implement the Toyota production system.
And Mr. Oba just shakes his head and says, no, that is the solution. What is the problem? Don is totally thrown. He tries again. We need to be more efficient.
Too vague.
Mr. Oba says, vague. So Don tries, our quality scores are bad. Mr. Oba says, that is someone else's opinion. What is your problem? He just refuses to help. He literally crosses his arms and waits.
He's forcing Don to do the hard work of diagnosis himself.
He is, and he won't move forward until Don can state a specific quantified gap. A real problem statement isn't we're inefficient. It's our goal is to produce 75 engines per day. We are currently producing 50 engines per day. We have a gap of 25 engines.
It has to be measurable, where we are versus where we want to be.
Until you have that, any solution you pick is just a guess. It's a shot in the dark. You might spend $1 million on new software, but if the real problem is a broken printer on the shipping dock, you just wasted all that money and time. You solved the wrong problem.
They use that optical illusion to explain this, right? The one with the triangles.
It's the Kinesis triangle, yeah.
Where you have the 3 Pac-Man shapes. And your brain automatically sees a white triangle in the middle that isn't actually there.
Your brain fills in the gaps. It creates a pattern that doesn't exist.
Mhm.
And we do the exact same thing at work. We see a symptom like a delay, and our brain just fills in the cause. Oh, the team must be lazy.
Yeah.
Or our IT systems are terrible.
We see a solution that isn't really there, and we miss what is actually happening.
So the key to stop hallucinating these solutions is their first big mantra. Go see the work.
Don't stay in the conference room.
Get out of the conference room. Don't look at the spreadsheet that someone prepared for you. Go to the actual place where the work is done. Sit with the person processing invoices. Stand on the factory floor. Listen in on the customer service calls.
There's a rule of thumb they use that I absolutely love. It's something like, if you aren't embarrassed by what you find when you look at the actual work, you aren't looking closely enough.
It is so true. Because when you actually watch, you see the chaos. You see the person copying a number from one screen, pasting it into another, then realizing the format is wrong, so they open a calculator.
You see the 20 sticky notes with passwords stuck to the monitor, the secret personal spreadsheets that are the only thing holding the process together.
Exactly. It's always a mess of clever, inefficient workarounds. It's embarrassing.
Mhm.
But that embarrassment, that's where the gold is. That's
Mhm.
the real problem you need to solve. If you just look at the PowerPoint summary, you miss all of that.
So once you've gone to see the work and you've defined the right problem, that leads to principle number 2, structure for discovery.
Right. And this one tackles what they call the learning paradox.
Which is what?
Well, companies spend billions and billions of dollars on training programs, right? Leadership offsites, certifications, seminars.
All this formal learning.
But the authors argue that the most powerful, most frequent learning doesn't happen in a classroom. It happens every single day while you're just doing your job.
We learn by doing.
We learn by doing. But here's the paradox. In a badly designed system, we learn all the wrong things.
What do you mean by wrong things?
Okay, think about the office printer that's always jamming. You learn that if you open and close the tray 3 times and give it a little kick on the side, it starts working again.
I have absolutely learned the exact skill.
You've learned a workaround. You haven't learned how to fix the printer. You've learned how to adapt to its brokenness. Or, a better example, if your boss is the kind of person who freaks out when they hear bad news, what do you learn?
You learn to hide problems until the last possible minute.
Exactly. You learn that transparency gets you punished. So the goal of structure for discovery is to design the work itself so that the very act of doing it teaches you how to do it better.
Nelson uses a golf analogy for this one, which I actually found helpful.
It's a good one because it's all about feedback loops. So Nelson is a terrible golfer, and his goal was just hit the ball further.
Which is a classic bad goal, right? It's vague.
Totally vague. If he swings with all his might and shanks the ball 300 yards into the forest, did he succeed? I mean, technically he hit it further, but the feedback is useless.
He lost his ball.
So his coach gives him a new goal, which is actually a constraint. The coach says, your only goal is to have no double bogeys.
Ah, that changes everything.
It changes the entire psychology. Now he's standing on the tee, and there's a big water hazard. The old goal, hit it further, might tempt him to try and smash it over the water, but the new rule, no double bogeys, makes him think.
The risk is too high. If it goes in the water, that's a penalty, and he's almost guaranteed a double bogey.
So the constraint forces him to make a smarter decision. He lays up, plays it safe, and the feedback is instant and unambiguous. At the end of the hole, did you get a double bogey, yes or no?
It's like turning work into a video game. You get immediate points. You know if you're winning or losing right away.
And that immediacy is what's missing from most corporate learning. You work on a project in February, and you get feedback on it in your annual performance review in December. The loop is way too long to learn anything.
So you need to build these tight feedback loops into the work itself. This leads to one of the most interesting techniques in the book, something they call barbecue the boss.
Yes, and I just want to say for the record, this is a metaphor. Please do not actually barbecue your boss.
Even if they really deserve it after a tough week.
It's a structured meeting where the team gets to essentially grill their leader about the intent behind the goals they've been given.
Why is that so important? Why not just give them the target and tell them to hit it?
Because in a dynamic world, a world with traffic jams, rules aren't enough. Let's say I'm your boss and I tell you, your target is to process 100 applications today. Simple rule.
Okay, got it. Process 100.
But what if the server crashes for 3 hours? Or what if a batch of really complicated applications comes in that take twice as long as usual? You're not going to get 100. So what do you do?
Well, I have a choice. I can either cut corners and process 100 applications poorly just to hit the number, or I can do 50 applications really well and miss my target.
Exactly. And if you don't understand the intent behind the target, the why, you'll probably just hit the number to protect yourself. You'll optimize for the metric, not for the actual mission.
So barbecuing the boss is the team asking, okay, why 100? Is quality more important than speed? What's the trade-off you want us to make when things go wrong?
It forces the leader to be crystal clear about the strategy. It moves from follow these instructions to here's the outcome we need, use your judgment to get us there. It builds alignment, which is what allows people to be autonomous.
Okay, that makes sense. Principle 3, connect the human chain. This really gets at that feeling of isolation in modern work. We're all on Slack, but we feel disconnected.
We are digitally hyperconnected, but often structurally disconnected. We design our companies around org charts, right? Who reports to whom? The marketing department is on the third floor, engineering is on the fourth.
But that's not how work actually happens.
Not at all. Work flows sideways. It flows across those departments. A customer order has to go from sales to finance to manufacturing to shipping. It cuts right across the silos we've built.
And the work gets stuck in the white space on the org chart, in the gaps between the boxes.
That's where all the delays and misunderstandings happen. The story they tell about Ron at the BP refinery is just a perfect, tragic example of this.
Poor Ron, I felt so bad for him.
The authors were there to map out the process for purchasing parts. And they found this process map taped to a wall that was, and this is not an exaggeration, 144 steps long.
144 steps?
Yeah.
Just to buy a valve. That's not a process. That's a nightmare.
And Ron was one of the purchasers. The problem was, in a recent reorganization, they had moved his entire department to a building a mile away from the refinery engineers who actually needed the parts.
So he was completely isolated.
Totally. He was no longer a person helping a colleague. He was just a guy processing electronic forms. He didn't know why they needed that part or what it was for. If there was a typo on the form, he couldn't just lean over his cubicle and ask.
He had to start a long, painful email chain.
And he became this massive bottleneck. Everybody in the refinery hated Ron. Ron is so slow. Ron is blocking everything. But it wasn't Ron's fault. He was a good employee stuck in a disconnected system.
This is where they make that critical distinction between handoffs and huddles. I feel like this one idea could fix so many problems in companies.
I completely agree. This is a huge takeaway. A handoff is for transferring standard, unambiguous information. Think about your paycheck. You don't need a meeting with the payroll department. You just want the data, the money transferred to your account.
Right. It's routine, no conversation needed.
A huddle, on the other hand, is for resolving ambiguity and complexity. It's a conversation. It's for things like, this client seems unhappy, what's our strategy? Or, we have two design options, which one should we pursue? You can't put that stuff in a form.
And the big mistake we all make is we mix them up.
Constantly. We use email, which is a slow, low-bandwidth handoff tool to try and solve complex, ambiguous problems. And what do you get?
You get that nightmare email thread with 50 replies and a subject line that's just re.
And nobody knows what was decided. That was a problem that needed a 5-minute huddle, a quick conversation. And on the flip side, we call these hour-long meetings, which should be for huddles. And people just sit there reading bullet points from a slide.
Which is a failed handoff. Just email me the presentation.
Exactly. Connecting the human chain is about being incredibly deliberate. Is this a handoff? Use an asynchronous tool. Is this a huddle? Get people together face-to-face or on video and talk it out.
If you don't do this, you get what they call seagull management.
It's such a perfect, horrible image. When a leader is disconnected from the daily flow of work, they don't see problems when they're small. They only hear about them when they explode into a full-blown crisis.
So they swoop in out of nowhere.
Squawk really loudly, make a huge mess.
They shit on everything.
They do. And then they fly away, leaving the team to clean up the damage.
We have all worked for a seagull manager.
We have. And it happens because they aren't wired into the system. A dynamic system had things like daily tiered huddles. The frontline team meets for 15 minutes at 9 a.m. If there's a problem they can't solve, they escalate it to their manager's huddle at 9:23. The manager becomes a servant to the team, clearing obstacles in real time.
It's support, not seagulling. Okay, principle 4, regulate for flow. This one is really counterintuitive, I think. It goes against everything we're taught about productivity.
It really does. Because the core belief in most businesses is that to be efficient, Everyone needs to be busy 100% of the time.
Right. Idle hands are the devil's workshop. If I see someone just staring into space, I assume they're slacking off.
But the authors make a powerful point from systems theory. 100% utilization of any system equals 0% movement.
Okay, unpack that for me. That sounds like a paradox.
Think about a highway during peak rush hour. Every single inch of road is occupied by a car. The highway is at a 100% utilization.
And it's a parking lot. No one is moving.
Exactly. To get flow, to get speed, you need space.
Mhm.
You need gaps between the cars. You need slack in the system. But at work, we do the opposite. We pack every minute of every calendar. We assign people to 5 projects at once. We run them at 110% utilization and then wonder why nothing ever gets finished.
And it's not just the system, it's our brains. They talk about the cognitive cost of task switching.
Yes, this is huge. Every time you switch from your email to a spreadsheet to a Slack message and back to the email, your brain has to unload the old context and load up the new one. It's not free. It takes mental energy.
And the research shows it's a massive drain. We lose something like 20 or even 40% of our productive capacity just to the act of switching tasks.
So by trying to juggle 5 things at once, you're actually getting less done than if you had just focused on one thing at a time, and the quality of the work plummets.
But it feels so dangerous to stop, to tell your boss, nope, my plate is full, I'm not taking on anything new right now.
That's what they call the worse before better curve. When you first stop firefighting and start saying no to protect your flow, it feels like you're failing. You aren't getting that heroic dopamine hit. People might get annoyed that you're not instantly responding. It takes real leadership courage to push through that dip.
They use the airplane door metaphor, which I think is brilliant.
It's so simple and clear. An airline makes money by flying planes full of passengers. But at some point, they have to close the door.
If they just kept letting people on, the plane would never leave the gate.
Never. But in knowledge work, we never close the door. We launch a big project, the plane is already taxiing down the runway, and then some executive runs out and says, wait, I have 3 more features I want to add.
And we try to bring the plane back to the gate,
Hmm.
and it just creates chaos and delay.
You have to have a clear airplane door for your work. A point at which you say, the scope is locked, we are taking off, any new ideas will have to catch the next flight.
There is an absolutely incredible life or death example of this from Yale New Haven Hospital with a surgeon named Dr. Abil Mongi.
This story is just, it gives you chills. His cardiac surgery unit was in total crisis. Post-op patients were getting stuck in the recovery hallways because the ICU was always full, and some of them were dying there.
That's horrifying.
It's the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
And the typical static thinking response would be to yell at the ICU nurses, work faster, discharge people quicker, clear those beds.
Push harder, firefight.
Right. But Dr. Mangi understood flow. He saw that the problem wasn't the ICU. The problem was that the input, the number of surgeries starting, wasn't matched to the system's capacity. So he did something that sounded completely insane.
What did he do?
He started regulating the start. He made a new rule. We will not begin a surgery. We will not open a patient's chest until we have confirmation of a clean, empty bed waiting for them in the ICU.
He started canceling or postponing surgeries. The hospital administration must have lost their minds.
They must have thought he was crazy. You're letting operating rooms sit empty. We're losing revenue.
But what was the result?
The chaos disappeared. By stopping the relentless jamming of the system, the ICU nurses were no longer overwhelmed. They could do their jobs properly. The backlog in the hallways vanished. And here is the truly amazing part. Their total throughput, the number of successful surgeries they did per month, actually went up.
By doing less at the front of the process, they accomplished more at the end.
And their mortality rates plummeted. They saved lives by deliberately slowing down. It is the ultimate proof that busyness is a vanity metric. Flow is the only thing that matters.
Wow. Okay, on to the final one, Principle 5. Visualize the work. This feels connected to go see the work, but it's for stuff you can't see.
Exactly. If you're in a car factory and one of the machines breaks down, you see a problem immediately. There's a giant pile of car doors stacking up on the floor. The problem is visible. You literally trip over it.
But if you're a software developer or an accountant or a marketer, your work is invisible. It's just electrons inside a computer.
Your pile of car doors is a clogged inbox or a folder on a server. You can have millions of dollars of value just sitting there stuck and no one can see it. So you have to make the invisible visible.
You have to get it out of the computer and into the physical world.
And it doesn't have to be high tech. In fact, low tech is often better. A simple whiteboard or a wall with sticky notes is powerful because you can't just close the tab. It's there, staring everyone in the face all day.
They tell the story of Fannie Mae, the huge mortgage company, using a clothesline and laundry clips for this.
It's hilarious. A VP named Caroline Law was in charge of their incredibly complex monthly financial close process. Thousands of tasks, all with dependencies. And they were always late and stressed out.
And no one knew where the bottleneck was because it was all buried in project plans and spreadsheets.
So she literally bought a clothesline, strung it up down a major hallway, and wrote every single task on an index card. Then she used clips to hang them on the line.
I can just imagine the eye rolling from all these finance professionals. Oh, great, we're doing arts and crafts now.
They totally mocked her. They said it looked like her neighbor's laundry hanging out to dry. But then a strange thing happened.
People started looking at it.
People started looking. You could walk down the hall and see the state of the entire system at a glance. You could see, whoa, why is there a huge clump of cards under Bob's name? He's totally swamped.
The bottleneck became physically obvious. You couldn't ignore it.
And it changed the social dynamic. Before, if you were falling behind, you'd hide it. You'd suffer in silence at your desk because you didn't want to look like you were failing. But now, the problem isn't in Bob. The problem is on the wall.
It depersonalizes the problem. It's not Bob is slow. It's there is a bottleneck at this step in the process.
Yes. It becomes a shared puzzle for the team to solve, not an individual secret shame. People started walking over and saying, hey, looks like you're jammed up. Can I take a couple of those cards off your plate? It sparked spontaneous collaboration.
And this ties back to the Broad Institute. They used a visual tool called a fireboard.
A super simple whiteboard. It just had a few columns. Problem defined, investigating, solution designed, and implemented.
Seems almost too basic to work.
But the tool is only half of it. The magic was the culture that Sheila Dodge, the manager, built around it. She fundamentally changed the question that leaders ask.
Instead of who screwed up.
She stopped asking, why is this late? Or whose fault is this? She started every meeting with one simple question. Is anything on fire?
That is such a different energy.
It's a total reframe. Whose fault is this is an accusation. It makes people defensive and encourages them to hide problems. But is anything on fire is an invitation. It says, let's find the problems together so we can put them out.
So raising your hand and reporting a fire became a good thing.
It became the most valuable thing you could do. The only way to get in trouble was to not report a fire that you knew about. That was the only sin. That's how you create psychological safety, which is the secret ingredient that makes all of this work.
Okay, so we have the 5 principles. Solve the right problem, structure for discovery, connect the human chain, regulate for flow, and visualize the work. So, where do we start? How do we actually do this? The authors are very clear about what not to do.
Yes. Do not call a big all-hands meeting. Do not print posters with the 5 principles. Do not buy coffee mugs with a new slogan on them.
That's how every corporate change initiative starts, with a big, splashy kickoff.
And that's why they almost all fail. Your employees are smart, and they are cynical for a very good reason. They've seen this movie before.
They've seen Project Phoenix and Initiative Everest come and go.
Exactly. There's this absolutely brutal story in the book about a manager at BP named Steve Carboy. He comes back from this training all excited about these ideas. He gets his team together for a big speech. This is it. We're going to change everything.
And how did they react?
An old, experienced operator on his team just quietly walks over to a dusty cabinet, pulls out a heavy box, and drops it on the desk with a loud thud.
And what's in the box?
Binders. From the last 3 failed change initiatives. And the operator just looks at him and says, we've seen this before. We'll wait it out.
Oh, that's just crushing.
It's a powerful reality check. If you announce it as a big program, your bet people will just keep their heads down and wait for you to get distracted by the next shiny object.
So if you don't announce it, what do?
You don't announce it. You just start doing it. You pick one small, meaningful, but manageable problem. You find your shipping dock.
This comes from Don Kieffer's story at a company called Intermatic.
Right. When he took over, he didn't launch a massive transformation initiative. He saw that they were missing a lot of customer shipments. So he just walked down to the shipping dock and asked the people working there, hey, what's getting in your way? Why can't we ship on time?
He went to see the work.
He went to see the work. And you know what he found?
I think I remember this. It was a printer, right?
It was a broken label printer. It was old and glitchy and slow, and it was the bottleneck for the entire department. They had been complaining about it for months.
And why didn't anyone just fix it?
Because nobody asked. Because they assumed management didn't care or that there was no budget, they developed learned helplessness. So Don didn't give a speech. He didn't form a task force. He just picked up the phone, called the IT department, and got them a new printer that afternoon.
That's it.
That was it. But think about the signal that sends to the team. It says, I listen. I care about the real work. I'm here to remove obstacles, not to blame you. That single act earned him the trust he needed to then tackle the next bigger problem.
So the advice is don't try to boil the ocean. Find the one broken printer, the one pebble in your team's shoe, and just fix it. Show, don't tell.
Exactly. Get a small win. Prove that a better way is possible.
We have to close the loop on the Broad Institute because we saw them turn things around back in 2012. But the real test of a dynamic system isn't when things are normal. It's when a crisis hits.
And in 2020, the ultimate crisis hit, COVID-19.
And the world suddenly needed tens of millions of diagnostic tests immediately.
And you have to remember, the Broad was a research institute. They were sequencing genomes. They were not a clinical lab set up to do infectious disease testing for the public. They didn't have the right machines, the right licenses, anything.
But they had spent the last 8 years building these dynamic work design muscles.
They had the visual boards, they had the daily huddles, they had a culture of, is anything on fire? Problem solving. So when the world changed overnight, they didn't panic. They adapted.
They reconfigured their entire operation.
In a matter of weeks, they turned this world-class genomics research center into one of the largest COVID testing labs in the country.
And the scale of what they did is just staggering.
They went from doing 0 COVID tests to processing over 20 million of them. At their peak, they were responsible for a huge percentage of all the testing in the entire Northeast. They were faster and more reliable than the massive commercial labs that had been doing this for decades.
That's the ultimate proof of concept, isn't it? The goal isn't just efficiency.
Efficiency is fragile. If you're perfectly efficient at doing one thing and the world suddenly demands a different thing, you're finished. The goal is resilience. It's adaptability. DWD isn't just about making your Friday less stressful. It's about building an organization that can survive and thrive in a world that is guaranteed to keep changing.
So for everyone listening right now, sitting at their desk feeling that exact burnout we started with, what's the one thing they should do this afternoon?
I think the single most powerful first step is to officially resign from your job as chief firefighter.
That's a hard title to give up. The cape feels good.
I know it does, but put down the cape. Stop getting your validation from heroics. Start being a scientist of your own work instead.
Yeah.
Just for today, watch for the fires. Where are they coming from? What is the one recurring, annoying problem that keeps disrupting your day?
Find your broken printer.
Find your broken printer. And then just make it visible. Write it on a sticky note and put it on your monitor. And ask yourself one other question. What is the airplane door for my day? What is one thing I can finish completely before I let something new interrupt me?
There's a line at the very end of the book that I think sums it all up. There really is a better way, but you have to stop running long enough to build it.
That's it right there. Stop running. Start looking. Start designing.
That's a perfect place to end. Thank you for this deep dive. Go out there, find your broken printer, and let's start managing the system instead of letting the system manage us.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.